Forgive the heating pad, please. I have a headache. This is going to be a second channel review for a couple of reasons. YouTube is getting more and more punishing with having videos not perform great on a channel that could have views coming in more. And the dirty secret of BookTube, not many people watch book reviews unless it's for popular authors, stuff like that. So you're still going to be getting the same book reviews as always, just here. I'm genuinely sorry for the minor inconvenience of having to go to a second channel. I know that can kind of suck. I just have to watch out for my career. That being said though, I'm really excited to talk about the two books we have on the table today, and that is going to be Magic Bites, a Kate Daniels story, and Wandering in Redux. And we're going to start off with the former there. This is the first time I've gone into a book in a long time with zero expectations, because this wasn't a book I picked up because it was recommended here by the Goblin Horde. In fact, I just specifically wanted to find something on my own, and it had been a while since I had picked up an urban fantasy epic. Obviously, I've done the Dresden Files here. I touched on Iron Druid, and there's been a few other urban fantasy series as well. But this one was just somehow completely under my radar. And if you're unaware, it follows a mercenary named Kate Daniels as she recounts her life to us of working against and with magical forces in a fictionalized Atlanta, Georgia, where magic is just resurfaced and known in the world by the greater population. And of course, that has caused quite a bit of conflict as factions have formed in the magical world that the real one has to come to terms with. And Kate Daniels, you're gonna be shocked to hear it, is an urban fantasy protagonist who struggles with some emotional turmoil over their past and loses a mentor figure, and now has to go solve the mystery of the murder within the supernatural world. I'm not gonna get into the obvious comparison yet, because I do want to talk about the Kate Daniels series, at least my exposure to it in Magic Bites, as it stands on its own 2 feet away from everything else. And I liked this book, and it kind of stops there for me. I don't have tremendous criticisms, and I like a lot of what it did, but similar to many other urban fantasy series, it just felt like a first book in something that had a lot of potential, room to grow, but didn't necessarily put deep enough hooks in me to drive me on to continue to read the rest of the series. Kate Daniels is a personality-filled, sassy protagonist who's smart and experienced with combat. She's got a sword, has romantic interests playing throughout the plot, and deals with some severe emotional trauma here. It all just goes through the motions for me, but it does it competently enough. I will say there are also a few world-building elements within this series I really like, especially how technology and magic seem to have these waves inverse of each other of functionality for the whole world. So there's these shifts that happen up and down where those who are magical are super powered, and then the technology comes back because they interfere. I'll also give credit for Magic Bites, not unlike some lesser romantasy series, letting the romantic angles to this story just happen for the sake of spice being in the story, and instead there is clear emotional depth to why Kate Daniels is choosing to be with someone at certain points who might not be the best for them. There is definitely intrigue with some other characters that they could certainly end up with, and I am here for it. All of that really informs the exact emotional state of our protagonist to make Kate Daniels end up feeling like a very real person in extraordinary circumstances. But that's where my favorite angles to the story pretty much come to an end. But it doesn't really sink into bad at any point. It has the amount of schlock that I feel like is appropriate to scratch the Buffy itch for me. And on top of that, I think the pacing and structure was good. And the mystery, well, you can absolutely call major beats of it, was not paint by numbers necessarily. I will say one thing that genuinely annoys me about at least the way the Kate Daniels series is talked about online is it's lumped in with romantasy, which it is. I think that's fine. Like, sure, put that label there. Except I would call it exactly equal, like directly as horny as the Dresden Files. The only difference is that one is actually presented as being written by a female author, Iona Andrews, when in reality it's a husband-wife duo, while the other's written by a guy. And they're just different target market things, approaches, because they think Dresden Files, led by a male protagonist, will appeal better with his very overt, I mean, even the author acknowledges it, male gaze to that demographic. And over here we have, well, it's a female perspective and it's horny in a different way, so it's going to appeal. But like, if we're actually trying to gauge the amount of romantasy elements in Stormfront versus Magic Bites, they're spot fucking on with each other. Why does that even annoy me? I don't know, but it does. I guess because I see so many people who I know are Dresden Files fans say they wouldn't read a romantasy book when, motherfucker, maybe the Kate Daniels series gets a lot hornier as it goes on, but I don't feel like it had the tone to become one of these like uber spicy, even Kushiel's Dart level romantasy books. And if I had to just test the waters, I'm sure there's some explicit sex scenes and stuff going on. But in terms of the perspective you are in and the emotional state of the character, same level. But that is going to take me to talk about the obvious Dresden Files comparisons here. If you are a Dresden fan and you would like to read something similar to Dresden Files, this is just a hop skip in a way with some interesting twists on how the magic works and things along those lines. Though if it wasn't for those rule breaking, okay, this can't exist in the same world as this, it would feel like these stories could even take place in the same world, with how we have these supernatural factions paralleling right into being criminal elements. The big change, obviously, is that, well, the magical world is known here, and that is substantial in the narrative, except the way these supernatural elements behave is so similar that it just ends up hitting the palate kind of the same. And Dresden Files has also reached the point where it's a little insane that the real world is not caught on to the fact that there are magical things going on, and I'll give Kate Daniels credit, not going to have that problem. But the presentation of magic and the snarky protagonist, so much of the spirit of one is echoed in the other. Though I would say Magic Bites, the first book in Kate Daniels, is really same quality level as Stormfront, which I would consider a weaker Dresden book, and they really do float to each other like siblings. It's a brother-sister relationship happening. So my recommendation here would be, if you are looking for an urban fantasy epic and you don't necessarily like the heavy male gaze of Dresden Files, at least judging from the first book, Magic Bites, the Kate Daniels series looks like it might be more up your alley. For me personally though, it's going to be landing at a soft 6 out of 10. I enjoyed it. Probably not going to continue on from here. Although I do believe it'll stick with me more than Iron Druid did. But oh boy, this is going to take me to talking about The Wandering Inn again. And I'm kind of glad this isn't going on the main channel right now, because I feel really bad with what I have to say now that I've read the Redux of the first volume in The Wandering Inn. When I picked up the physical book, because I did the first time the audiobook, which admittedly had a great performance, so I wanted to do the Redux in a physical book. I started thinking this was okay. Yeah, it's got a little more efficiency going on. But then I remembered my personal universal truth about The Wandering Inn. The more time I spend with Aaron, the more I dislike Aaron. And, ooh.
Giant, annoying, bangsy pain in the ass who makes me want to die.
I think the benefit of listening to the audiobook, for me at the end of the day, was greater for enjoyment than reading the touched up prose that we get in the refreshed first volume, because unfortunately the refreshed first volume is still not written anywhere near up to par, in my opinion. I again understand that if you specifically like this kind of unproductive main character in a world where events just essentially happen around them while they make bad decisions, and it verges into cozy but doesn't ever quite get there, this sure could be a wonderful experience to you, and I have made great effort on my channel to try not to be a prose snob. Except when it reaches a point, and I've been promised that this is a Redux and it's going to be better, I kind of have to mention that this is pretty awfully written, which is surprising to me because of how many Wandering Inn fans have promised me the series gets better written as you get far deeper into it. Because if this was rewritten by the author now, where they're supposed to have polished their skill, I really have a hard time believing that. And it sucks to kick The Wandering Inn, because I do love what it is for modern fantasy, for the progression of what entertainment can be. I have no problem with people liking this story. It's just an absolute no from me.
Now come here and give me a hug.
It's okay. Come here. Come here. Oh, get out of here.
And I could repeat so many of the criticisms I had from my first review in terms of just wheel spinning and nonsensical decisions, many of which I hope to see cut or still just here, even though they had nothing to do with the plot. Aaron's inconsistent decision making just irked me all the more on a read through because there was just the more apparent as I already knew who the character was going to turn out to be from go. And without the additional personality that the narrator brought for the audiobook, the actual reading experience became surprisingly dry in comparison, where, yeah, there's these nonsensical, over-the-top, exuberant character traits going on, but for me personally, there's such a lack of nuance that I don't feel invited at all to try and read deeper meaning, decisions, anything, and instead, it just continues to feel like a stream of consciousness formed into a narrative and pushed at me. And so I'm happy that we have a new reigning champion of Longest Fantasy series. And if this is your jam, do your thing. I personally am not going to be giving The Wandering Inn another try after this. I feel a little swoopy doopied after being promised something that was going to be significantly more polished, and I'm going to stick with giving this probably a 4 out of 10, purely because there is some charm there that's just not my taste. I don't think there's anything offensive really at all, aside from the quality of writing, and it plays it surprisingly safe as well. When you come back through a second time, that's a little clearer in my opinion. So for me, yeah, I'm going to go with a 4 out of 10 and say the experience felt like eating a Lunchable, where there's nothing horrid in the box overtly, but you know there's stuff with such greater sustenance. My opinion, keep doing what you're doing. The team over there is great, and I will fully admit, I have never had such a positive reaction from a fan base that I have given such a negative review for. Wandering Inn fans are the most understanding, sweet people, and it makes I feel horrid. Like, this sucks. At least, like, when I crap on Terry Goodkind, the people who show up to defend him, their profile pictures are in pickup trucks. I'm done. All right.